think we do want to open it up for questions from the audience, and I encourage your questions because I do think it's just such a great group of folks we have up here. Steve Culbertson. Do we have a mic back there? Yeah, Steve, they're bringing a mic.
Steve Culbertson from Youth Service America. One of the successes we've had is getting employers to bring their children along at volunteer opportunities, or to set them up where young people are actually leading their parents and getting their parents' peers out for service projects. I'm wondering if any of you have tried that strategy in ways of getting family volunteering as part of your efforts, but in particular making sure that kids are seen as assets and resources within the context of employee volunteering.
I can take that one. I think for Target, one of the things that's been interesting about our giving program is this notion of segmentation, right? So we look at our guests in a segmented way, and we've taken the same approach with our team members. And as we look at how they like to be engaged in service based on their life stages at Target, we found, coming out of the college campus, they want to go volunteer in PACS. They're coming from the college campus, that's very successful. They get integrated into the corporate culture. As they progress and start to have families, or as their children reach different stages of development, ensuring that we're able to engage them as a family has become very important, and a great strategy for us to ensure that, one, we're enabling them to be able to volunteer, but are also allowing them to serve as role models with and for their children. And so, gosh, over a decade ago, in fact, we funded a study to look at this notion of family volunteerism and service and ways that we can engage more families in volunteerism. And we've continued then over the years to look at opportunities to ensure that our volunteer activities are framed in a way that make it inviting and engaging. Are there projects that are age appropriate? Are we really ensuring that there are meaningful things for the family to do together? And that, literally things is, you have t-shirts in the right size. I mean, some of this is just basic and practical, so you're making it truly a robust and meaningful experience. And one, hopefully, then, that is sustainable, because it creates this notion of service that can extend beyond that project, which means our model of service opportunities, the menu that we create, has to take that into account. And we have to ensure that that is something that can play out, obviously, at the local level, given that we have a program that's quite decentralized. But it's a very important part of our strategy. And it means not just children, it now means grandchildren. And then the grandchildren, certainly then create a different kind of dynamic, because you have intergenerational volunteerism that we're addressing at this stage as well.
Jean, can I?
Sure.
I just want to note, Steve, to your question, that the research over the last few years has really confirmed that when a kid volunteers, they're far more likely to volunteer later in life.
Right.
But it also has confirmed that if a kid has any adult relative that volunteers, including uncles and aunts, they are more than twice as likely to volunteer themselves later in life as if they don't have any relative that volunteers.
Yeah, leveraged opportunity. We'll bring the microphone down, and we're in the front.
I'm Michael Weiser, Chair of the National Conference on Citizenship. Even as we begin to ask Congress to appropriate $3+ billion in service initiatives, there is a looming measurement tool out there that we and the Corporation for National Community Service are, in a sense, shepherding together, called the Civic Health Index. What about measurement tools in the corporate world? Do they exist for actual social impact? And do you think corporations would be more willing to engage in service if those measurement tools existed?
And let me add one twist on your question, and I want panel members to answer it. A question that has come up recently is whether it might make sense for companies to create a collaborative around targeted social issues, exactly for this reason, Michael. So that if you're targeting literacy and you come together, so let's say 3 companies here say all of our volunteers and our corporate giving, or a portion of it will go to literacy, they know that together they have kind of a partnership and a way to measure that impact. But do you want to answer Michael's question, any panelists here?
I'm not sure that there's a macro approach to how you're going to measure, and what you're actually developing has the potential of being very helpful. I will say, as our people compete for the $50 million and they want that in their community, on their, with their nonprofit where they think they can really make a difference, as they write up the proposal, they have to say, and here's why I want Deloitte dollars to fund this and the impact it's going to have, and then we're going to create accountability on a results-oriented basis, and we're going to do it one project at a time. as our people are competing for, that $50 million in each of the regions.
Is there a true test function?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Well, there will be a third-party validation by one of our partners actually evaluating the results of that project. And especially if that partner then advocates another project and this other one went bust, the likelihood of getting the second one funded goes down dramatically.
And Michael, from a foundation standpoint, what I would say, and we embrace this in partnerships with corporations, we do as well, if you know early on what your return on investment is expected to be, and that can take a variety of forms, and you're able to articulate that at the time you're making a grant, then you have a template to come back and judge it by down the road. And I've seen a lot of companies do that.
And I'd suggest that for us, again, it's similar. On the front end of any project, what are your objectives? What's the strategy? What does success look like? And then on the back end, you're able to measure your success against those objectives. That said, it's complicated. You have a lot of projects, a lot of partnerships. They're not all created equally. But to that end, measurement is clearly a huge trend in all sectors. And to that end, we formulated an operations and measurement team for our community relations staff to help us continue to evolve our methodology around, again, operational efficiency as well as measurement. And so I think we'll get better at it, but it isn't going to be a one-size-fits-all approach because it allows us to do better research, to have better ways to measure and track our impact over time. It's helping us look at the systems required to do that tracking over time, which I think is an important part of measurement as well. And so it's a complicated question.
Would you be willing to share best practice?
When we develop something I think are worth sharing, no. We certainly have decent ones, but there's room for improvement.
I just want to also note that this is part of what makes, I think, national service programs right now very good investments for corporations. Over the last 4 years, every single grantee of federal dollars in the Learn and Serve, Senior Corps, AmeriCorps, Vista space has, they've come up with their portfolios of long-term and intermediate-term impacts. So the entire national service portfolio is ready to speak with corporations about that.
You've been very patient. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Scott Beal from Atlas Corps. We take developing world leaders to volunteer in the United States as almost like a reverse Peace Corps, as Harris Walker would call it. We developed a partnership with DuPont where they sponsored some of our fellows from India as a way to engage nonprofit leaders in the developing world and engage stakeholders. And I'm curious, with so many big international companies here, are there other successful models in engaging the developing world in partnership as opposed to just sending money and talent overseas?
We do it with leadership development. We bring customers, partners, government officials in to experience our brand of leadership development. They decide who's going to come. They aren't always people we're selling to. And it's a 2-week program typically. And the idea is to introduce them to ethics, everything from ethics to business practices to basic leadership development that a lot of our companies take for granted. And there's probably 1,000 of them now running around in 50 different countries that at least have experienced our way to think about it.